Good morning and welcome to the Return Homestead. My name is Mike and my wife Marty and I homestead 50 acres in southeastern Kentucky. If you've been watching on the channel, we've been doing a remodel on a 2001 Fleetwood mobile home and we are ready to do some electrical work in the bedroom. We're working on the master bedroom today. We want to get all of the electrical set in place, get the boxes put up, see if we can't get all the wires landed and possibly even some of the receptacles put in place. That all starts right here at the electrical panel. If you've never had a breaker get tripped in your house, you may never have actually opened this panel in your home. It's there somewhere, either in the laundry room, in a bathroom, stuck behind a bedroom wall, or stuck behind a bedroom door when it's open. Inside of the panel, you have circuit breakers. Now, what's behind this metal plate? No reason to even worry yourself about that. If you're not an electrician, you probably shouldn't be behind that metal plate anyway. It's not that difficult. If you need to, there are extra spaces for you to add additional breakers. Takes a little bit of know-how to make sure the breakers go in correctly and you buy the right size breakers. Probably a good idea if you've never been back there to allow an electrician to at least show you how it's done. So if you need an additional breaker, call an electrician, watch what he does. You'll figure out how to do it pretty quickly. But the panel setup is usually pretty easy. You've got all of these breakers that control one or more circuits within your home. Typically, you just flip the breaker in order to turn power off to a given circuit. And that would allow you to work on that circuit without any fear whatsoever that you're going to get electrocuted or get bit. Make sure you know which circuits do what. There's usually a label on the inside of the panel to explain the layout of the electrical in your home. Don't trust these too much. If they've been up there for 10 or 15 years, the chances are things have changed and the electrical layout is different than what's labeled on the back of the door in the electrical panel. The most important thing to know about this panel is how to turn the power off to the entire panel. If you're not comfortable with the electrical or you don't have a firm understanding of how the electricity flows through your home, the easiest thing to do, just turn off all the power at one time. Now you know there's no electricity anywhere in the home. You are perfectly safe to work on any one of the circuits without any fear that you're going to get electrocuted. The other important tool to have with you when you're working on electrical is some sort of a tester. Now, if you're a master with a multimeter, you probably don't need this lesson and probably don't need one of these testers. But if you're not someone who works with electrical all the time, this little tester is a lifesaver, truly. It's only got one button on it. Really simple to turn it on. And the way you test for an electrical current is just by sticking it on something you want to test. If it lights up, yes, you have electricity on that circuit. That means this is live, so I'd want to be very careful about what I do with this particular outlet. But you can also check wires to see if the wires have power on them. So here in the shower that we framed up a couple of videos ago, we do have a wire. This used to have an outlet attached to it. It was on the back side of the shower inside of the bedroom. And we've removed the outlet, but we really don't know what's going on with this wire. We don't have 100% confidence which circuit this is a part of. Before I start messing with pulling these caps off, hit the button on the tester, and the tester tells us there is an electrical current coming up to this wire. Now you notice the beep is a little bit different. That's telling me that only one of these wires is hot. So there's no return on this line. Pretty clever tester. It actually tells you which wire is which. Probably the best thing to understand about the tester is if it's flashing like that and blinking red, there's some power in there you want to be careful about. There's several other tools you'll find very handy when dealing with electrical. First is going to be a hammer. It may not seem like something you'd use for electrical, but when you attach the boxes to the inside of the wall, you're nailing them off to a stud. So the hammer is very useful. You're going to need a razor knife. Try to get something with a retractable blade. Makes it much safer for you. You're not going to cut yourself accidentally when you stick the razor knife in your pocket. You need a good pair of diagonal cutters. I would say the larger pair is probably the easiest to work with. The smaller these get, the harder they can be to operate. Need some sort of wire strippers. You can use the diagonal cutters for that, but that requires some additional skills. These wire strippers make it real easy to strip the insulation off of the wire without damaging the conductor inside. And then a screwdriver. If you can find one that has an interchangeable head on it, it makes it much more versatile for any circumstance you might encounter while dealing with electrical. So where do you start when you're working on the electrical? We decided to just start on the end wall of the house. It's as good a place to start as any. And when we're talking about this wall, we're going to have the bathroom vanity coming in here. We're going to move this light out of the ceiling and install a new vanity light over the top of the vanity. That means we've got to get a box inside of the wall for the electrical, and we'll mount the vanity light to that. As we start talking about how we're going to do that, we come across an issue that we're going to have to deal with. And that's, where are the studs? We got one stud way over here. And another stud there. So that means we're trying to mount our vanity light in the middle of the stud bay. It's going to make things a little more complicated. There are some electrical boxes I can get that will allow us to do this. But the other problem we're going to encounter is that there's a stud here behind the drywall, and our electrical is on the other side of it. We've got to get the wires that are feeding this light pulled back over to where the light goes. And that's impossible to do with the drywall on the wall. Now the good news is, while this is open currently, this is going to be a solid wall on this side and a solid wall on this side. That means we can replace this drywall on this exterior wall, and that will allow us to get inside of here and be able to work on the studs instead of trying to figure out how to fish a wire through invisibly. So I think we're going to rip all this vlog off of the wall. It was a problem to begin with because the mirror used to be up here, and everywhere that the paint didn't cover is this lovely patterned vinyl, and it makes for a mess. We were going to put shiplap on this wall primarily just to cover up this mess on the VOG. But if we can take the VOG out and just replace it with fresh drywall, we may change our mind about putting up the shiplap. So I think that's what we're going to do with the electrical here. We know we need to raise these switches and outlets up because they're below the level of the vanity. So removing all of this drywall makes that whole process a whole lot easier. So I think Marty is going to work on that throughout the week. She'll get this thing stripped down so we have a nice open wall to work with. In the meantime, we're going to move on to dealing with other electrical issues here in the bedroom. The electrical begins with these receptacle boxes. These are actually just junction boxes. They're places where you can bring the wires safely inside of a box and then split the wires out in order to connect them to either a switch or an outlet. You can also use these to create joins between wires. So if you need to extend a wire, you can bring both wires inside of the box and just put a flat cover over the top of this, and you've got a junction box. Makes things really easy. These are designed to go onto a stud. They've got a little notch on the outside that lines up to the front of the stud. And it gives you enough clearance so that when you put drywall on, the drywall will come up just a little past the edge of the box. Makes it easy to cut the hole out afterwards with a rotozip. And then it's just a matter of deciding where exactly do you want the boxes to go. We're going to put one receptacle or one outlet here on the inside of the closet. To make sure we do everything pretty consistently, I'm just going to use my hammer to figure out how high I want each one of these outlet boxes. And then it's just a matter of hammering in the nails. So So once you have the nails in, the box is fairly well secured to the inside of the stud. I like these a lot better than what we've been seeing from the mobile home manufacturer, where they're actually just using clips to hold switches and outlets inside of the drywall. I like to have everything solidly anchored to a stud wherever we can. So we're going to use these boxes. That's an outlet box. You use the exact same box to put switches in, but switches are going to be a little bit higher. And this doesn't need to be perfect, but it's a good idea to have everything at least consistent. So we're going to put all of our switches at 48 inches. And these boxes are universal. You can flip them any direction you need to in order to get them onto a stud. I'm just going to put that 48-inch mark in the middle of the box. Drive in the nails. Piece cake. So we've got all these boxes mounted on the studs. Now we just need to make some way for the wire to be pulled through the wall and over to the box. 3/4 inch paddle bit will take care of that. We're just going to bore holes through the studs that we need to. I've already come through the exterior wall. This is in the shower where we're going to pull this wire across, bring it into this stud and into this box, and that'll give power to this outlet, and then we'll continue the power up and through this stud over to this box, which will then hold the switch for the light in the shower, and we'll take that power up this wall, and not really sure how we're going to get it through there. So my plan was to bring the power in here, hit that outlet, come through this stud, hit the switch, and then go up this stud and into the area of the ceiling. Unfortunately, I've got a massive stack of 2x4s here. Keep in mind that these 2x4s up top weren't here the other day when we were looking at the electrical. Now that I see it in place, I can see there's no way to get a wire through there. I don't have drill bits long enough. Do they make them? Yeah, they're relatively expensive. We could bore through at a crazy angle and get that through, but I've got another option. There is power that's coming through the ceiling here, and as far as we can tell, all this does is runs the light above the toilet. We were going to borrow that power and send it out for the light and outlet that are going to be in the closet. So we'll do the same for the light in the shower as well. So we'll bring that power across inside of this top piece of the wall and just bring it down the wall to the switch. I will need to cut a hole in this drywall backing in order for the box to have enough room to fit. So we'll get that done and we'll mount the switch right here. And then we'll be able to take that wire up and go through this outside wall of the shower in order to get it into the ceiling for the light fixture in the shower. So the difficulty I need to overcome here is that because of the drywall backing inside of this wall, the box doesn't have enough room to fit. So it sticks out a good 1/4 to 1/2 inch. And so I need to get a hole cut in that drywall backing. So I've marked off the area I need to cut out. Used the 3/4 inch paddle bit, since that's what was in the drill, to drill some holes in the corners. I'm gonna grab a Sawzall and just cut this section of wood out, and that'll allow us to get the box in. So I did have to cut the top of the hole off to allow me to access the two plug holes where the wires go into the switch, because I need a wire going in and another one coming back out to go to the light. So now everything fits the way that it's supposed to. The box has got plenty of room to set inside of the wall, and I can get the wires in and out. You may be wondering about this jagged hole in the stud though. Why would anyone rip apart a stud this way? But it's not structural. This is only holding drywall, and I've got more than enough wood there to do that. So cutting this hole in the stud is not a problem. It's all going to be behind the drywall. No one will ever know that doesn't watch this video. All right, Marty's been busy while I've been pulling wires throughout the bathroom and bedroom. She's got this back wall all ripped apart. They did glue the drywall onto the studs, so this is going to be quite a cleanup effort to get those studs cleaned off again. The reason for this was to make it easy to move this power. When you're working on your own electrical, there may be times where this type of switch that mounts inside of the drywall is the only solution, but I always prefer to have the box securely anchored to a stud. The wires come in from the ceiling. You'll notice we rebuilt this wall. We actually added an additional wall built out of 2x4s and then tied the two together with a piece of sheeting. So that's given us a nice stable wall to hold this plumbing vent, and also allows us a secure place to place the electrical. I cut the drywall away on this wall in the shower so we can get this wire pulled back over to the new shower wall. We're going to feed that through to this electrical outlet box inside of the toilet area. The electrical that is being supplied to the light in the toilet area is going to be split out so that we can also provide lighting in the closet and also in the shower. We'll stick all these wires together inside of a junction box up inside of the wall. And the power runs over to the closet, into the switch, and then we're also going to stick an outlet in the closet, so we've got a wire going down to the outlet box. Make sure when you're landing wire in these boxes that you leave plenty of slack. You want to be able to work easily to attach the switches and outlets. Over in the area where the headboard is, we've got power that goes up and over. We've got a switch and an outlet set on one side. And that also has a place for power to go out to the light that'll get mounted in the ceiling. And we need just one more wire to go from the switch on the other side into the ceiling where the light's going to be. So I showed you earlier that we were moving the switch for the shower from this wall to this wall because we had easier access to power. And now we've got the wires all pulled This wire will bring the power down from the junction box, down into the switch, and then off of the switch will go back out. And it goes across the top of the shower. And we are 99% certain now that we're going to put wall sconces of some type up on this outside wall for the lighting. This angled ceiling is just too difficult to deal with to figure out how to get power into it. There are way too many potential pitfalls where things can go wrong. It's going to be a lot easier to get some sconces mounted on this exterior wall. So we've got some good loops of wire pulled in there to allow us to bring the power across from the switch. So that takes care of all the dry electrical work. Once we got all the wires pulled, it's time to start playing around with the actual electricity, which means we're going to have to power off all these circuits. Lighting is going to get really bad in here, but there's no way to untangle this Gordian nut without taking the power off. So we've got power coming down and into, I think, the fan. Yep. Goes from the fan out to the electrical outlet, and then from that outlet into the light switch for the lights. So it comes from the outlet into the switch for the lights. All of that needs to be rerouted and sorted. I may try to move the switch for the fan to put it on the other wall, closer to the shower and the toilet area. That's really a better spot for it, and I think we may have enough wire to work with to be able to get the power over there, and that's really all we need is the power that goes into the switch and then out of the switch to the fan. So we'll be taking a look at that, but not with the power on. I'm not going to start cutting wires with the electrical turned on. So that's, I guess, where we're going to stop the video today. We do have a lot more electrical work to do, but we do need to get the power turned off in order to get to any of it. I appreciate you joining us here on the Return Homestead today. Marty and I are always super encouraged every time we go to our channel and we see how many more of you have been watching the videos and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please take a moment and do so. That's really going to help us out to get monetized. We're hoping to get that done by the end of the year. While you're in there, please hit that thumbs up button. That really does tell the algorithm how to share our video out to other people who need encouragement to return to the land, return to labor, and return to life. We'll see you next time.